Hello everyone, my name is Pixie People, and today we're going to talk about what if Deku had a fire quirk. Part 5. This is far longer than all my series, but I'm really comfortable with this series. Well, previous on what if Deku had a fire quirk, staying fuses with the Nomu that is Deku's childhood friend, becoming current crime scene. After they thought they took down crime scene, he awakens and takes out Deku. But luckily our heroes were able to hold him off for Deku to awaken and keep him into a bottle. It all was because of Endeavor and Deku burning out of him and turning him to ash. As you know, Deku now holds crime scene in a bottle. Alright. Okay. So let's start the story. Continue the story. So, after the internships and telling Aizawa and All Might about about what's in this bottle, All Might definitely will not keep it in, safe hands. But when Deku tells him that this this crime scene fellow idolized him, he he grabs it and then clips it to him, and now All Might is holding crime scene. And now he leaves. All Might leaves the situation to leave it up to Deku. And so, Deku, leaving, watching All Might leave, thinks back to the USJ and how he teamed up with him at one point. Then, I think after this arc was it was the heroes versus students. Versus students. Then, Deku, preparing for anything that comes towards him. So of course he's definitely training his quirk for more abilities and more abilities. He just keeps trying to get more tactics to his fighting style. He's been studying a lot of pro heroes. He's seeing if a lot of fire heroes to see if he can try and copy some of their attacks. Because that's the whole point of Hero Society. You're supposed to learn from the past and then improve it. That's basically what quirks are. The world learns it. The human race learns it and then keeps it in mind. So, most his, but he's always thinking about Endeavor because he's the one pro hero that had fire to get up to this to second podium. And of course, Deku keeps looking through his past videos, like he used to do with All Might. And after a long training regimen, and I will tell you those abilities during the battle. So, Deku and Bakugo look at each other, learning they were a part of the same team. Then both grinning ear to ear, knowing whoever's up against them, they're gonna have a real rough time. Until they learn it's All Might, and then they start sweating. Just no smirk anymore. They are like sweating. you would do if you met against the guy who is the strongest. Then he chilled. Also, his tolerance upgraded, so they all walk in. Bakugo and Deku walk in, seeing All Might just standing there, with them both knowing he's about to beat them in a lot of different ways that would be very painful to them. Obviously, they're both gonna protect their bodies so they don't get no ribs. Luckily, he left. He didn't actually. Luckily, he left the crime scene with Nezu. Since Nezu already took his win, he gave it to Nezu and told him to keep it safe. Deku. So, Deku and Bakugo, keeping their brains off. So, the battle begins. It starts out with All Might just staring at them, while Deku warms up his hands to make his hands a bit more powerful. And then it really begins when All Might steps on the ground, then bolts towards them. Luckily, Deku is fighting against Crime Scene, who is able to keep up with Endeavor, who is able to dodge Shigaraki in the War Arc, which I will count that as a feat still, because next time we see him, he is that strong. So, Deku is able to push Baku out the way before All Might punches his head. So Deku then uses a full power blast. So he charges up one in his hand, it becomes an orb, and then he shoots it into All Might, which makes him go flying. But All Might just puts a finger up and then flicks his entire blast away, which then, in turn, hits Deku in the gut, and then hurting his gut immediately in pain, and then just hits the ground and starts flying upwards, because he's like a pinball ball. Down, 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 up. He started flying, bro. He was zooming. Deku was just zooming upwards. Then, All Might just shoots himself towards Bakugo. Since Bakugo cannot dodge All Might then, in turn, punches Bakugo in the gut, and then he starts squirting whatever that white stuff was. It was a lot of spit. I don't know how he had that much spit in his mouth. He spit out some white stuff. Death. Die, 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 die. Yeah, it's Baku right now trying to shoot some explosions at this man. I just keep saying, die repeatedly. Repeatedly, and repeatedly, and repeatedly, and repeatedly, and repeatedly, until All Might grabs his mouth and slams him into a building, destroying the building in the process. Not but knocking out Baku, of course, because that determination. After Deku, a mile away, there's Deku finally getting up after a terrible gut injury. This guy is in so much pain after the crime scene punch. And then he realizes, oh, okay, it could have been worse. It could have been this kind of punch. Oh. Then he gets up and then becomes his demon form. Is I call it. I kind of want to rename it because it kind of is sus, a bit cringe actually. Maybe oh, Oni form, an Oni, you know, like what a demon is, but in Japanese, an Oni form. And now the form is even larger than before. Like think the Incredible Hulk. This guy is large now. Then he grows tendrils for hair, which is basically just whips. Then giant claws, and then he grows a tail because he wants a tail. That makes it a huge mace. Then grows his. I think I'll say it's more like bat wings still. Now you put it back to bat wings. Then he flies towards All Might, preparing to punch him directly in the face. But All Might was also distracted by Bakugo, so he got cleaned and then started flying. All Might tries to get his standing back, but he flies. But Deku's already in front of him, so Mace to the gut starts going flying. All Might coughing up blood because he hit him in the weak spot. Deku did not know about the weak spot, by the way. There's no way he would know. So, then he gets completely, almost knocked out of his hero form. But luckily, it wasn't as strong as, like, if All for One punched him like that. It would hurt even more. Out of his form immediately. But he's alright. And then he starts flying. All Might then kicks off the ground. Remember, he still has his weights on, so this is just basic weighted All Might. So he's still way stronger than these guys. Then he just punches Deku in the gut, goes flying. Baku finally getting up, walking in front of the street, and then just getting smacked by Deku. Deku flying back to All Might after bouncing off of Bakugo, and then he hits a bus. He flies back at All Might. Then he grows 4 arms. Then he puts his hands together in a, I guess, octagon-looking shape. Then he shot a Kikon Ho. Yes, a Tian move. And then just completely shoots All Might's, I guess his hero costume, like, top off. Which, yeah, that makes sense, because this is a thing that cuts through stuff. So All Might already knowing that did nothing to him. Kicks Deku in the face, and then he goes flying. So, it's basically just All Might versus Deku at this point. Because Baku is almost knocked completely out. It's just All Might punches, Deku gets hit, flies for a second, then gets his bearings, and then flies back to All Might, then hits him with a special attack. It's basically just a... It's basically Deku flying, punching, All Might, punch back, up, punch, up, punch. That's basically what's happening. But then, after a while, Bakugo comes up with a huge explosion, because he's been sweating from all the pain he's gone through. Then he runs up, to All Might, grabs both his grenades, and then just pulls the pins, and then All Might just goes completely and utterly flying. But Bakugo was behind him, so he got okay. So All Might, so Bakugo shot the explosions behind. Man, I'll just say it again. Okay, so Bakugo sneaks up on All Might after he's going flying after Deku's punch. Then he both grabs both explosions grenades, blows them up, and then goes flying out of the zone, which counts as a escape. So the hero team the students win. Bakugo and Deku win. Not even on Bakugo's purpose. He didn't even mean to do that. He just went flying out of the ring. He basically didn't expect the explosion to make him go that far. And yeah, that's a win for Deku and Bakugo. Bakugo did not like that W. That was not a good W, he says. It's definitely not the W he wanted. So, they go to the camp, since I have so much time left. I assume. So, it's just Bak. I could just skip all these. I just want to pick a low. So, Bakugo and Deku sit next to each other, and Todoroki's out the other side. It's the trio talking to each other. It's just a lot of talking. It's just a lot of talking between Bakugo, Deku, and thing. Until they get off the bus, Deku immediately realizing that, oh, so we're just not going to ignore the fact we aren't at the place, and we're definitely just gonna go flying off that cliff over there. But he says it all in his head because he doesn't want to interrupt the hero. When the Chi starts talking about like how the camp is over there, people start to catch on, but it's too late till one puts their hands on the ground and collapse the whole place, and then Deku goes flying off the cliff. But instead of but instead of it, but instead of them just flying down, Deku grows bat wings, fire bat wings, grabs Todoroki and Bakugo, and then flies off. Just no hesitation, just grabbing Bakugo and Todoroki. Actually, no. He then flies towards everyone else, and then they just make a pyramid. So there's just this pyramid of students with flaming bat wings for Deku. Remember, Deku was going, I guess, quote unquote, blow for blow with All Might. Waited, so that means he could definitely carry a couple students. They started flying all the way to the place, and they get there even earlier than they expect. They get there earlier than the bus, so they just sit down and wait for the bus to get there. Then then after Aizawa walks off the bus, he's like, "How the heck did you get here so quickly?" They just said, and they didn't even say anything. They just pointed out Deku and said nothing. And Aizawa already knew what happened, so he just scoffed and said, "Alright, settle down, relax." And, yeah. So they were able to start the training way quicker than before. Okay, so for Deku's quirk training, since his flame limit is really limited, they say to just be on fire as long as possible, even if it starts burning. It starts burning hard. It starts burning. So Deku is now on fire, and then when he feels that his sweat glands are a bit busted, falls off a cliff into water. There's a tiny cliff next to a lake in this scenario, so he just falls into it. And after cooling down, gets out of the water, then sits back down, and then burns his body again. It's just a cycle of him getting out of the water, being on fire, and then doing the exact same thing. It's just a circle. Until dinner. Bakugo. Deku, after training this long, he chills. It was a lot of chilling. He was just chilling. So after, well, they eat dinner. Yeah, dinner. But, let's just skip all the other half of the training. Deku does meet Kota and doesn't get his balls kicked because that already happened to, Momo, uh, Tetsu. I ain't gotta do Tetsu that badly, but that's what happened. He tried to greet Kota with Tetsu. Tetsu got his balls rocked. And how he just was out cold. Well, let's go back to what I was saying. So, after Deku talked to Kota, Kota definitely did not want to talk that well, as much as Deku wanted to. But they did talk, and they did work on their thing. On their talk, on Kota's talking to heroes. They become mildly good friends. Good, good brother. Think like a stepbrother and another stepbrother. And then Deku, chillin' with Kota. Kota says he's gonna go walk off to a secret spot for the night, but Deku just follows him just in case. Like an animal shows up and tries to, eat him. Kota doesn't mind. It's fine. They sit down, talk about, Kota and Deku's past. But of course, Deku's past less, depressing in the story. And then Muscular appears. That wasn't unexpected. Then punch. So he Dick being almost as fast as All Might in weighted form, immediately grabs Kota. Why did I say Oda? It's Kota. Flies out of the way, then puts him down, flies back at All Might, at Muscular, and then burns his entire face. And now he's blind. He cannot see. He is utterly and completely blind. You would too if you got your entire face burned off. Bro is blind. Then he flies. I'm talking. Nothing, nothing. Ignore it. Well, Deku, chillin' after completely blinding a person. When Kodos is the guy that killed his family, just no hesitation, Deku burns him alive. He can't see now he's being burned alive. Slowly. First he loses both his arms, then his legs, and then his entire body burns up. Now he looks. Then then Deku pushes him off a cliff, and then when he hits the ground, he turns to ash. Muscular is now dead. And then Deku picks up Kodo, flies back to the place, places Kodo next to Aizawa, telling him to keep Kodo safe. Then Deku flies through the entire forest, one-shotting villains. The only one he actually finds is Twice, and Twice is Spooks. Gets completely knocked out. But when he gets knocked out, something triggers, and then he vanishes. He's back at the base now. So Deku knows not to knock them out, just to make them tired. So, sadly, Twice is the only reason they got to get captured. But, that's what Deku thinks. But he doesn't know Twice's name. But, like, you know what I mean. And he flies and runs into Dobby. Da- da- Dobby not expecting Deku to have fire abilities. Actually, no, he did expect it. So he definitely wanted to fight Deku. Because he's like the same match as him, but like stronger flames. Oh, so Dobby thinks. This big. So they start burning down the forest with their flame abilities. Then Deku, while fighting him, makes a spear made out of blue flame, throws it. Dobby doesn't know that he could do that, so he almost gets hit by it. But when he starts shooting a flame at it, it just absorbs the flame and then makes the spear even stronger. And then it strikes Dobby in the arm, and then burning it completely off. And now he has just a charred limb, and then that limb just falls off. So now Dobby just has no arm. Zero arm. Where'd your arm go? I don't see it. And then as soon as Dobby sees this, he hits his neck, and then teleports out of there. Because that was probably the safest idea he could have done. Because if he did nothing else, he probably would have died. In his mind. But no, Deku would just knocked him out, since he doesn't know who this guy is. So it's going to be a pretty big problem when there's only compressed and uh, Magni, Spinner, compressed, and Toga only being there. And Toga's doing whatever she wants. Luckily, compressed ran into Bakugo, slapped him over the face, and now he's immortal. He thought he could be a Kargi, but then Deku appears, realizing that this guy definitely defeated Dobby. Because he thought Dobby won, but he didn't. And then he disappears. Taker tries punching at him, but then he just turns into gray. And now Baku is missing. Uh-oh. But before the Noma could leave, Yajiro's already stuck the tracker on him, so... It was more that they left immediately afterwards, because they were scared of dying from Deku, because they realized that after they get there, and after Twice Dobby, like, wake up from their wounds, and Dobby being punched by Deku, which is quite painful. They realized that Muscular never came back, so they just assume he got captured. But when they read the news later, they realize he died. And yeah, everyone just leaves. No one dies. I don't know why I tried to put that in there, but nope, nothing happens. They're all good. But I'll be, uh, Zuko already knowing that he's gonna go, no matter what happens, he's gonna go for Bakugo. Because he's his friend. Todoroki, Kirishima, and and Ida come. And they're just gonna go, chillax and go kill all of them. Then they track the signal, get to the Nomu base. Instead of Deku just brushing it off, he walks in and then burns the whole place to the ground. He just becomes a fire nuke. He becomes a nuke. And the entire Nomu base is just burned to the ground. So no more Nomus here, all for one. Then he walks out of the building after burning it completely up. Which also distracts all the villains to go to the Nomu base. Which gives them time to run into the base a with just twice sitting there. And then twice can't getting any measurements for it. He I guess yeah, they just knock him clean out. Out. They grab Akko and leave. No hesitation, just leaves. All for One is trying to realize this guy is quite useless. He's hoping that All for One doesn't know that. People are starting to realize how useless this guy is. But All for One, after appearing, Deku feels the pressure slightly and then tells everyone to keep going. And then Deku turns around, becomes on fire, then flies towards All for One. Then during the part where he starts revealing his arm, Deku already appears, and then sends a 4 fire spears his way, and then him unhinging his I guess his Oni form. It shoots a giant fireball, and then then Deku turns around. Oh, All for One turns, slaps all the quirks away, all the spears. Still gets hit by the fireball though. Actually, he just shoots his blast at it, obliterating all the flames. Which is heading straight for Deku, by the way. Deku was able to dodge it somehow. That goes, come. He turns, on fire. Like Gogeta, he, starts yelling. Then his whip tensions starts slapping at All for One. It's just so much slaps. Which is just a lot of whips to All for One, which is just a bit of slight pain to him. Then he grabs his form, but Deku already removes the form. And luckily his neck, where his Oni form is where his, where he isn't there. So he pops out of the form like Chopper, and then flies around, kicks All for One in the face, but All for One, unfazed, grabs him by the neck, by the foot, and then throws him towards All Might, which All Might catches him. Then he comes out. It's All Might versus All Might and Deku versus All for One. They fly towards each other and start swinging on each other. All for One punches, Deku burns, keeps trying to burn All for One's, bumpy arm. It's starting to work, definitely. And now All for One's arm is charred. Then he heals it immediately after Deku even hurts it. And Deku, after absolutely annihilating After annihilating all. After Deku realizes that he cannot do anything here, he keeps trying to kill off one. He will not stop until this guy dies. After all, Lion is punched away, slams to the ground. He then, All For One powers up his last remaining attack, telling Deku this is his only attack, and if he misses this attack, the world will end. So Deku makes sure it hits. So he pulls out this new form he's been concocting. So a giant hand emerges from rubble, then another hand, and then another, and then another, and then two legs appear. Then there's a Gundam with 4 arms, with flamethrowers attached to both of them. No, now there's a Gundam, and All For One has to face it. Sudeku pressures, and I mean pressures All For One to keep regenerating, which means he has to like turn off all that power quirk so he can keep focusing on regenerating. That's how hard this man is pressuring All For One right now. Then Deku was able to punch him to the ground, which All Might was right there and punched him directly in the face. Punching All For One right in the face, which then knocks All For One out. Then he points to the screen and then thumbs up at Mirio, who was staring at the screen at home. At Tsunade's office. Yep. Mirio got one for all. So, they stabbed. They took out All For One, which Deku saying, "Thanks for that. You're welcome for the help, by the way." White turning around after plopping his butt on the ground, saying, "I'm just glad I was able to get assistance. Because without you, I probably wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Even though, yes, he could have defeated him in the real timeline. But no one knows that. This is our timeline." And then they... Other sorts... And that's probably where I'm going to end this year. Yeah, that's where part 5 is going to end today. Let me see what time we're at. Yeah. What if Deku had a quirk? Part 5 is over now. I'm going to add a part 6, and it's not going to follow any of the timeline. It will not follow Season 5 or Season 6. It's just going to be a new part to the series. So, I will see all y'all later, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry for all the background noise. My father got home and then just kept talking, so I couldn't control that. Bye, everyone.